resulted in the assessment being $19,561.97. I'll highlight the fact that while they'll have the option to pay that in one lump sum, they will also have the option to pay it over 20 years at this point, right?
Okay.
Susan, good.
Yeah, Susan's in Zoom, so we've got a good.
Yeah, cool. Lou, you got a break. Susan's in, so when you have to leave, you can leave.
All right, sounds good.
And I just let Sandy in.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm sorry if I misunderstood. The agenda, I believe, stated this was an electronic meeting, so I don't know, I got confused. Sorry about that.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Hi, it's Sandy. Can you hear me?
We've got you, Sandy.
Yes.
I'm at home, but I'm on.
Okay. Okay, well, we have everybody in, Karen, that, is there anybody left in the waiting room?
I don't see anyone right now. No, everyone's in that wants to be in.
Okay,
Hi, are we in, Ted and Joyce Coleman?
Yes.
Thank you.
all right, well, why don't we get started? Good morning. I would
morning.
please- Pardon me?
I just said good morning. That's all.
Yeah, let's, please everyone mute until such time as you're gonna speak. That would be helpful. Good morning. I'd like to call the public hearing for, excuse me, Tuesday, August 31st, 2021 to order. And I will read the notice. Board of Selectmen will hold a public hearing on the proposed benefit assessments for properties benefited by the construction of water mains. The properties benefited are listed in our schedule here. Each property listed will be assessed 1 unit. The proposed benefit assessment is $19,561.97 per unit. Such public hearing will be held pursuant to Chapter 264 of the Code of the Town of Guilford for the purpose of, excuse me, the purpose of receiving public input regarding the proposed water main extension assessments. A copy of the proposed charges will be filed in the office of the town, Guilford Town Clerk, and also upon the signpost of the town of Guilford and published in the New Haven Register. Now that we've got the legal piece out of the way, I want to take just the opportunity to talk briefly. I want to, for today's meeting, we have some subject matter experts on the line. Norb Church. Norb is our legal subject matter expert. We also have from finance side, Mary Jane Malavasi, the town's finance director. And on the engineering side, we've got Janice Plasiak, and I was hoping Maruz would be also on the line from Wright Pierce, but I'm not sure I see him. But hopefully we won't need his expertise this morning. I want to take this opportunity to point out a couple of things. One, there are a bunch of tremendous advocates for this project. Perhaps none more important than Dennis Johnson, our former health director, who retired about a year ago, but was a great cheerleader and a great advocate for this project. And without him, I'm not sure it would have happened. I also want to take the opportunity to thank the various association officials, and in particular, Jessica Zito, Sue Robbins, and Brian McGlone for bird dogging this project as we've come down to the finish line. They were your advocates relative to the project cost containment, and understanding the various components of the project and the final pricing. One thing I want to mention is that we have arrived at a total count of those who are going to be assessed, and this is arrived at with consensus among the individuals I just mentioned from your associations, as well as Wright Pierce, the water company, and also Norb Church from a legal perspective. So the costs are being spread over the 151 assessed properties. And one thing I think is important to note, as was made clear in many conversations, and also I think at the outset of this project, the assessment, you will have the opportunity with the assessment to either pay it all upfront when you receive the first bill, or you can opt for 2 payments a year, similar to the way your car taxes are, your property taxes, not your car taxes, your property taxes are administered. So you'll have the opportunity to pay it out over the 20 years. If you opt for that amortized schedule, at any point during that 20-year period, you would have the right and the opportunity to pay off the balance at that particular time. So this meeting is actually being held in accordance with the ordinance. We were required, when the ordinance prescribes that we have this meeting to allow for discussion and give you this information relative to your individual assessments. At this point, I'd like to turn it over to Norm just for a brief comment about process and this and the importance of this meeting.
Okay, Matt, thank you. Essentially, at this stage, the project is done. We have all of the costs in, and the purpose at this point is to create assessment for each of the properties that was benefited by the project. And so it is a benefit assessment. The properties have been benefited, enhanced by the water project. And so to a great extent, the purpose of today's hearing is that if somebody strongly feels that for some reason, their property was not benefited to the amount of $19,561.97, this is your opportunity to plead your case to the Board of Selectmen as to why that assessment is excessive as to your property. If the board does vote to lay this assessment for all properties, the next thing that will happen after that is the assessments, the final assessments will be filed in the town clerk's office. Individual assessment notices will be put on the land records for each property. And if anyone feels aggrieved by their assessment in the sense that it is in excess of the benefit they received, they would have 20 days to appeal that to a Superior Court, 20 days from the date that is filed with the town clerk's office. Hopefully, people will feel that the assessment or that the provision of water will substantially enhance the value of their properties. Among other things, as each property owner abandons their well, one of the things that happens is that you essentially expand the area on your lot for septic system repairs, which is worth the price of admission in and of itself. So anyway, that's the story with how the assessment works, and I'll throw it back over to Matt.
Thank you, Norm. Mary Jane, I think at this point, it probably makes sense to talk about what that assessment actually is and how we arrived at that. So I think there's going to be some screen sharing here at some point, assuming the technology works.
Thank you, Matt. Yes, I'm hoping everybody can already see the numbers up on the screen. It's a snapshot of the entire project. The project had a total budget of $6,468,051, of which we spent $6,013,857. Thanks to a number of grants, we received a total of $1.5 million directly from Connecticut Water, made up of supplies for the project and direct funding. We also applied for and were awarded 2 separate state bond allotments from the state of Connecticut, helping this project directly in the amount of $1.15 million. We are going out and have gotten a loan for the balance of this project, as people know. But the Clean Water Fund has given us a subsidy of $410,000. So the first $410,000 of that loan will be forgiven, so to speak. So that is a general revenue directly to the project. So when I take the expenses of the project, less all of the funds that we were able to bring in, we have a balance of $2,953,857.91, split equally by the 151 accounts on the project for a total of $19,561.97 per unit.
Thank you, Mary Jane. Would you also just briefly, I think you probably have these numbers at hand, what the amortized assessment payouts would be on a twice-a-year basis?
Certainly, the amortization schedule shows a payment of $595.77 twice a year. The first assessment would be coming out October and the second in April.
Thank
And
you.
just like, I'll just add that we do have a full amortization schedule. Anybody wanting to see that at this point or at any point throughout the project, if they were considering paying it off, would be made available to any of the 151 units.
Okay, thank you, Mary Jane. Janice or Maruz, which I still don't see Maruz on the line. Is there anything that beyond what we've talked about that you think we need added?
No, Matt, I mean, I kind of helped take over finishing up the project from when Dennis, started directly with Wright Pierce and True Blue as our contractor. Progressed quite well. And as you know, we were able to finish up substantially last year. And, I've seen the continuation of homes connecting to the, water services to the new water main for their benefit.
And I think, I'm anticipating some questions along these lines, but one of the things, this project wound up being significantly more costly than was projected back in 2015, 2016, when an engineering firm as well as Connecticut Water Company estimated the cost of this project at substantially less than it came in at. I think it's important to note, though, that the True Blue, our contractor, did come in under budget. But again, I don't have the number in front of me, but it did come in under budget. And I think for most people's expectations ahead of time, they were substantially complete long before the contract would have allowed for them to extend the project.
Matt, I can add to that. The overall construction cost came in about $96,000 under the original bid price with True Blue, and there was a construction contingency of over $450,000 that was not utilized.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I think at this point, what I'd like to do is open it up for questions. And Karen, if you would, I tell you what, if everyone would who has a question, just raise their hand, and we'll try to go through through all those who have questions and or comments. Raise your hand electronically, not on the screen. Is everyone aware of how to do that on the screen?
Just call on one. Just call.
Yeah.
No, I don't. How do you do that on the screen?
It's in
We're
reaction.
on the telephone.
Okay, we've got, oh, you're on the telephone, all right. All right, yeah, whoever was just speaking, please say your name and address, and then share with us your comments or question.
I'm Joyce Paulman. My husband Ted is here with me. We're at 34 Lower Road. We were told at the beginning of the project on Lower Road that if we did not sign up to have it, that we did not have to pay that assessment. Is that still the case, or have you gone back on your word?
Nora, would you take that, please?
He's muted.
Norb, you're muted. Norb, you're muted.
I gotta unmute. I have to unmute myself. We had a meeting about 2 years ago where the project was started and the selectmen voted on moving forward with it. And there was at that point a list of homes that were going to be included in the project. So I'm assuming that your home was one of the ones that was to be included.
That was not to be included.
Yeah, they're not-
had
they're not-
said-
They are not included as an assessed property on this list because they chose not to join and have access to the water main.
Okay, so if the list that was published in the newspaper and the list that is included with this hearing today, if it does not show your property address on the list, you are not included and you will not be assessed. On the
Okay.
other, we do have some properties that will be able to join the project at a later date if they wish. And if they decide to do so that they can hook up to water, at that point, they will be charged a connection charge of the $19,561.97. And that would have to be paid at a lump sum at that time. And again, that would be for a small list of properties that we have on a subsidiary list that would have the ability to connect at a later date if they wished.
I have another question. I'm not sure that Roger and Gail Fabian were able to get into the meeting. In case they didn't, they are also on Lower Road. And they, I believe, said they did not want it. Is their property included in the list of not being on the list?
Can you provide an address for their property?
It's Lower Road, 34, it's probably in the 20s, 20-something Lower Road.
Fabian is the name?
Yeah,
I think it's 14 Lower Road, and they will be assessed.
they will
No,
be assessed.
they should not be assessed.
But they should not be assessed, okay.
Yeah, they're on the no assessment.
Got you.
There'll be no assessment, okay. Thank you.
See, okay.
I think that's all the questions that we had. That's the main thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else, either raise your hand in front of the screen or
Toby guy.
Toby, is that, or it looks like Mike
Yeah.
myself on
Yeah.
that.
Hi, Matt. Good morning. Along the lines that you just discussed, assuming that there are additional people who want to hook up, whether it be the people on Lower Road or there's been some talk of some people in Indian Cove at some point wanting to connect, would there then be a recalculation and a lowering of the assessment to be paid by the people who joined at the beginning of the project?
It is my understanding that no, but Norb, would you take that, please?
Yeah, there'll be no decrease in assessment. Your assessment is what it is. We did everything we could to encourage and control other people to join the project. And at this point, we have our final number of 151, and it will not change by virtue of anybody hooking up to water at a later date and paying that $19,561.
wouldn't that change the calculation? I mean, if you change the number of participants to share the cost, why would the remaining participants not be benefited? In other words, why would the town be recovering more than the cost of the project?
Yeah, the statute that covers this says that anybody who comes in after the fact of their assessment goes to the general fund, which is again why we tried so hard to encourage people to sign up to make.
I know we all did that, but I would just like to reserve on that issue. And also I wanted to thank Matt in terms of the people who did the most to make this project happen. Matt, you and Sean Scanlon were absolutely terrific in guiding it through on your side. And we would be remiss if we didn't mention George Verba from our community, who came up with some very bright ideas to value engineer and improve the cost and the function.
Thank you, Michael. Anyone else with a question? Raise your hand either electronically, which I can't see on this one, but maybe Karen can. Okay, George Verba, you'll need to unmute, I think. George, there you go. Now we have you.
Okay, just a quick question. This assessment here of 19,561, is this going to raise our property taxes?
Not in and of itself, no.
Okay, so it will not be added automatically to the value of our properties.
Our assessor will not be attaching this as a automatic inflation number for your property value.
Okay. Second question, it is quite feasible that the people in Indian Cove will connect to this water main in the future, and the logical connection is at the bottom of Lower Road. Let's assume they do connect. Will they be assessed a connection fee proportional to the costs that we had in bringing the water main to Lower Road, which in my opinion is something close to $1 million. So let's assume they all connect. Would they then be charged $1 million or half of it, or in proportion to the total connectors?
Nord, would you take that one? I think Indian Cove has the opportunity to be served from two different points. Coming in off of West Road, as I understand, and now they'd be able to come in from.
No. The West Road property is an 8-inch pipe that will not serve that community. They would have to connect to both pipes. In other words, to loop it in that project. So they don't have the opportunity to just connect on Lower Road unless they replace that entire main to a 12-inch main. This is my engineering opinion.
Nord?
Yep. As to Indian Cove or other areas where the water company may someday extend the lines, the town of Guilford will not be involved. So keep in mind that the town of Guilford essentially financed the construction of this. We put up the money up front to make this all happen. So any further extensions, most likely, because they were invited to be part of the project, any further extensions, the town will not be involved. And so I think, people face the prospect of if there are extensions, they're gonna have to put the money up front. It will not be by the town, and I can't possibly estimate what that cost would be, whether it be more or less than we're looking at here. No idea.
Okay, thank you. And finally, I would like to just say to everybody that Dennis Johnson was totally invaluable in this project. I've never seen a town official, and I've now been working 60 years as an engineer. I've never seen anybody as dedicated as him. I mean, he spent hours and hours of his own time to help us get this project moving. So really, thanks to him. And I really, we wouldn't be here unless it was for him. And this was a great, great person to handle this project for us. Thank you, Dennis Johnson.
Thank you, George. I share those sentiments. I think most people on this call do as well. And we'll make sure that I pass along these comments to him.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Mike, you got your, that's thumbs up. Hey, nice job, Mike. You're pretty good at this stuff.
We have 4 people in the waiting room, waiting to speak.
Okay, go ahead, Karen. Why don't you,
Mr. Rowan, would you like to speak?
Is that Rowan?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Bill Rowan. I'm at 145 Tuttle's Point Road. And first I want to echo what I think it was Toby and George have said, the appreciation of the water coming down to these neighborhoods that Jess and I were just have purchased our property, and we're looking at building a new house down here. And I'm quite sure it could not have happened realistically without the knowledge and the faith in all those involved that we could get this done. So again, I really appreciate so much the efforts that have taken place. I also want to express that same concern that Toby had raised in regards to the $19,000, roughly $500, any additional connections being sent to the general fund and not dispersed equitably amongst those in the neighborhood who had already paid. It seems to me, obviously, and it seems to me a no-brainer to be able to, since this fund is carved out, that it appears, I think it's at least fair for maybe Norbert, you said that a statute would not allow that. And I think that it's, I think it's prudent to, first of all, you mentioned that there is a statute that you should, for the record, state that statute, and that the town should also kind of recognize that for those, the 151 who would not benefit from additional connections, to recognize that is rather unfair. And other than that, we're very happy with the water service, and I think that that part of additional connections should continue. Thank you.
yeah, your response, please. Do you happen to have that statute close at hand, or the?
Unfortunately, I don't have it close at hand with me, but it's in chapter 7 of the Connecticut General Statutes, which has to do with municipalities.
I mean,
Perhaps when I'm back from vacation, I can get that for Mr. Owen if he likes.
it came out.
Thank you. We'll get that out. Yeah. Karen, next up.
Scott Singer, would you like to?
Hi, yes, Colleen Singer, 706 Mulberry Point Road. Thank you, everyone who put in so much effort over the years, 20 years, I understand. We've had this property for 15 years. I wanted to ask Mary Jane about the timeline on the amortization schedule. If you could just remind us the number of years that's attached to that and what the interest rate is. And I'll take your answer while I'm muted.
Certainly, the loan that we have with the Connecticut Water Company is at 2%. So the amount that we are charging for the assessment is also 2%. So it's a 2% interest rate on top of the 19,000, and that is payable in 2 installments over 20 years for a total of 40 payments.
Okay, thanks very much. I'd forgotten the number of years. Scott, did you have something?
Yes, just my thanks as well to everybody. Fantastic to watch this project come to life. I just wanted confirmation that any additional hookups from any neighborhood, including Indian Cove, will be charged the same amount that we have been charged and nothing less. Can that be confirmed, please?
Yes, that is confirmed, right, Norm?
Here we go. Again, any other extensions of this main, we don't expect the town of Guilford to be involved. So, you know, one of the big nuts to crack for those property owners is they're going to have to front the money. They're not going to have the town fronting it like we did in this project.
Thank you, Norm. Mary Jane, just one point of clarification. You mentioned the loan was through the Connecticut Water Company. It is the Clean Water Drinking Fund, if I'm not mistaken. Is that?
Yes, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing. I
That's
apologize.
okay. I just wanted to make sure folks knew it's the Clean Water Drinking Fund.
Correct.
Karen, next.
Paris Kina.
Hi, I just wanted to join in with those that have expressed their feelings about further people that join in the water that didn't sign up at the beginning. And their addition lowers the overall cost to the rest of us. I would be interested in hearing about this statute as well and seeing if there's some way that there can be a workaround so that that money goes back to those of us that signed up originally, and that the latecomers pay the, I can't see very well, 19,561.97. And I don't think it should go back into the general fund because the general fund benefits the whole town, and the whole town did not contribute to this project. I think that statute somehow needs to be addressed. And I also would like to thank everybody that was involved in this project. It was incredible, and it has changed our lives immeasurably on Mulberry Point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Matt. It's Janice. I have the, so there is the ordinance that was adopted by the town, which is chapter 264 for the reason of this project and to provide benefit assessments. And then in that chapter, there's reference to the state statute for benefit assessments. And it's chapter 7-137 and some other sections of section 7. I do want to point out that I think the point that Norb is making is important, that the town did on the for the benefit of the neighborhood, including trying to include Indian Cove, did you know, have this project created and provided the leadership to have the project done to the benefit of the neighborhood. And a lot of those costs were shared by the town in general, because there was a lot of staff time that is obviously not being reimbursed through this project. We're only charging this project for the true, you know, costs and not all the time that town officials have spent working on the project. So to say that, you know, no one in the town, and I'm not only your town engineer, I also live here, no one else in the town, you know, provided any benefits to this project is not completely accurate. So I just wanted to make that point, that that's, you know, understood, that if the town takes on the lead for these types of projects, there are some general town costs that are incurred. And I think it's important to know what Norb said, is that the likelihood of Indian Cove obtaining water in a similar way, being led by the town to provide the water to them in this way, would likely not happen in the future. They would kind of be on their own. And further to point out that the actual water main itself is not the property of the town, it is the property of the Connecticut Water Company at the completion of this project.
Thank you.
Matt, would you allow me to comment as well?
Certainly.
I'd just like to add that anybody who is eligible to tack on to this would not be given the opportunity to pay over 20 years. That's only for the 151 current units. So if someone were to come on in a year or so, they would have to pay the full assessment in one lump sum and not over time. And secondly, I'd just like to add on to what Janice said, that the town is still has ongoing expenses for this project, ongoing legal costs, the costs of billing, all of these other type of ancillary charges, which will not be charged to this project. The project costs were decided at a particular time period and have not been adjusted, even though we have had some additional costs for the project. So I just like to make those two quick points.
Thank you. Thank you, MJ. Karen, next.
Sorry, George Herndon.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Yeah, I just had a quick question. Looking at what was provided us, payment agreement by the water company back in March of 2017, it showed with an 80% or greater commitment, our assessment cost would be $13,161. I was just wondering what the discrepancy is with our $19,000 assessment.
I'll take that at the start, but maybe need some help from Norm and also Janice and Mary Jane. Those were estimates based on, as I mentioned at the outset, some engineering estimates on a consultant that we brought onto the project, as well as the Connecticut Water Company's understanding of what the cost would be at that point. When we went out to bid, we knew that a couple of years would clearly, based on inflation, would result in increased costs, labor costs, and material costs. Obviously, we didn't realize it was going to be as substantial as it was. We actually had to bid this project twice. And the first time we went through, the low bidder backed out on us, and then the other bidders were also not willing to go forward at that time with those prices that they had committed to. So we went out to bid for a second time, and the numbers came back in at well, they were higher than this assessment really would be, because they would have been another 100,000 or whatever. Janice, you mentioned the contingency plus the $96,000. So that's the difference, is basically time, materials, and I would suggest an underestimation by professionals who should have had better numbers back in 2017.
Okay, thank you.
Karen, anybody else?
Susan M.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. Appreciate it. And thanks for setting up this call today. And my apologies if this is a rudimentary question, but in the unlikely demise of a property owner or the sale of a property, does the assessment follow the home or the property owner's estate?
Matt, I guess I can answer.
Yeah, thanks, Norm.
The assessment follows the property, not the owner. So, for whatever it's worth, if you were to sell it, let's say you were to sell your property sometime in the 20 years, it would be a negotiation point between you as a seller and a potential buyer as to whether the buyer would assume the balance of the assessment, or you negotiate a deal that they want you to pay it at the time that you close. So that's between a buyer and a seller of the property if you sell during that 20 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ben Bloom.
Would you mind stating your full name, please?
Yes, please. Susan McLeeman. And actually, the water project is near and dear to my husband's family, as his father, Everett McLeeman, started this project way back in, I think, the 80s or 90s, or maybe even earlier than that.
Thank you.
Dawn Henry.
Hi, Dawn Henry from 777 Mulberry Point Road. If we were to pay off the assessment right now, do we owe $19,561 or something less? And likewise, if we pay it off 20 years from now, is the assessment actually higher than 19,561 because of the interest?
Mary Jane?
So if you were to pay it in one lump sum, you would have to pay the full 19,561.97. That is the principal amount of the assessment. If you pay it over time, say you pay 10 years in, you would have paid 10 years worth of interest on top of that, so that the number would include whatever interest, but only the principal balance would be paid at that time.
Thank you.
Ben Bloom, I see you've been trying to raise your hand.
Thanks. Ben and Patty Bloom at 98 DK. Is there the potential for any supplemental funding for this under the infrastructure bill that's going through presently?
Ben, at this point, we have a request.
There is.
Ben, we have a request in through both senators' office for infrastructure funding on this. I'm not tremendously hopeful because this project is already in the books and done and paid for. And we've requested a significant amount of money from them on this for this project. Mary Jane and I had gone through that. But at this point, I would consider it unlikely. It would be unlikely that it would come from, because they're looking for new projects.
Thanks.
Matt, I
Aaron?
think Brian McGlone wanted to speak.
There we go.
Thank you. Yes, Brian McGlone from 622 Mulberry Point Road. A couple of points I'd like to ask. Probably the first one to Norb. Norb, when you talked about this being, a benefit assessment that'll be on the property, is that technically any different than a lien? And I'm just curious, will this impact anybody's credit rating, or if they were going out for any other loans, is this visible to the outside, and might that impact anybody's ability as a benefit assessment versus a lien? I mean, effectively, I think it's the same thing. But could you comment on that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You can really think of it as being, in a way, similar to taxes. So whether or not credit reporting agencies report or receive reports of delinquent taxes, I have absolutely no idea. But it ought not to affect one's credit, I suppose, unless they weren't paying.
Okay. To Mary Jane, please. The question that came up, Mary Jane, about the one-time payment or the payment over time, when the time comes or the first bill comes or whatever, will that amortization schedule be there? If people looked at it and said, geez, okay, I have up to 20 years, but if I pay it off in 10, it's this cost to me versus that's cost to me over 20. Will the kind of amortization schedule be provided so that we would know if it was paid in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years type of thing, as opposed to us trying to calculate the interest impact?
Brian, it is my intent that the copy of the amortization schedule will be in that first billing.
Okay. Another question that we had along the way, and I'd like to ask it, and it's somewhat, the comments about the future connections and that money's going to the town. Has anybody calculated what the tax revenue will be to the town from Connecticut Water? Janice mentioned that the Connecticut Water Company will own this infrastructure. And so will they be paying personal property taxes on the whole $6 million cost, or only on the hardware pipe cost, or how would that tax revenue be calculated?
Jay?
Yeah, That's a question for the assessor. I'm afraid I'm just not qualified to answer that without speaking with her. Sorry.
Okay,
Brian, we'll get you that answer, Brian.
okay. And no, that's probably it. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Karen, anybody else?
I don't see anyone, but I know Sue Renner had her hand up for quite a while. I don't know if she still wants to speak.
Oh, thanks, Karen. The nice thing about asking your question last is that it's usually already been answered. So I'm all set. I was wondering how the 19.5 compared to the expectations of the owners, but that's been addressed. Thank you.
Hello, this is Roger Fabian. I'm on Zoom.
Yeah.
We're at 14 Lower Road. My wife has a question.
Certainly.
We received a letter dated August 17th to join Lower Road as the water main project. The date to join was until the 26th of August. We did not get this letter till like the 19th. So that only gave us like 5-6 days to call you and decide. We have not hooked up to the water because we are seasonal and we only use the house 5-6 months a year. So is it too late to join or have you extended that?
Norm, what's your legal opinion on that?
I suppose at this point, it may not be too late. I guess really the threshold question is, are you truly interested in joining the project at this time, or are you just sort of making general inquiry?
General inquiries. We're using the house only seasonal and we're not there, you know, most of the time. So we decided not to join, but now maybe we think it would be a good idea. We're not quite sure what to do.
And we were told at somebody at the water company that if we wanted to join later on, we would have that ability at any time.
Well, and that's correct. You certainly don't have to join now. You could join 10 years from now or whatever. The difference would be that at the time that you join, you would pay the $19,561 in one lump sum. By being, had you been part of the project now, you would have had the option of making that payable over 20 years at 2%.
So if 5 years from now we want to join, we pay $20,000 and we can join, and the construction costs are all ours, right?
Yes. The connection charges would be yours. The assessment would stay at $561.
Is it still too late to join? That was my original question.
I'm going to leave that one to Matt and Mary Jane. We've got a lot of balls in the air on making this all happen. So Matt or Mary Jane may be the best person to answer that question.
Well, I've done some quick calculation, and if we added one more unit, the amount goes down to $19,433.28. We would need a serious commitment in order to make that adjustment, because if for some reason you chose not to join, that would affect everyone's assessment. We would need to know within the next couple of days, because we are ready to, send these bills out for October 1st. So I guess the decision would be up to the Board of Selectmen. I could make it happen if that was the decision.
And it's really just a math exercise, but also ensuring that we have a firm commitment, and that would probably take some kind of, I don't know, Nor, what would you suggest relative to the commitments, because everyone else had to make a commitment through the water company, as I understand.
Yeah, so in this instance, what we would need is a letter from you signed by both of you saying that you would like to join the water project and become part of the assessment process for this water project.
Okay, who do I send the letter to?
You can send it to my office, and if that's something you can do today, we'd appreciate it, because we actually have to set in a resolution which we're going to do shortly after this meeting, because we had not anticipated anyone coming on board after having sent the letters out. So Norm, I guess, and I don't know if Pete Barrett's on this call or not, could we make a resolution that has a contingency in it for one specific addition? So basically say, if we anticipate it's this, but if we receive written notification by close of business today, that the assessment would be X minus whatever it is. Mary Jane already has the math. Is that something we could do in a resolution, or is that?
Yes, I think you could amend the proposed resolution to have a contingency portion that if one other property were to signify to you in writing by the end of business today that they wanted to join, that your resolution would include then that the assessment would be over 152 properties, what the new overall assessment amount would be, and then what the new monthly, not monthly, the once every 6 months payment would be. And you could do that as a contingency on your resolution.
We can't react that quickly, get you a letter today. It's impossible.
We're not in town, we're out of town. How can we get a letter to you today?
Talk to our lawyer. I mean, it's more drawn out than that.
Norm and or Pete, what do you feel comfortable with relative to a timeline?
We need it at a very minimum, a couple of weeks.
Or no, a week, maybe.
We have some filing requirements with the town clerk on this project that would preclude us extending it that far, if I'm not mistaken, Norm. This needs to be filed within several days, right?
It does. We're on a very tight time frame. As I say, we have a lot of balls in the air and they all have to drop at the same time.
Do it or not? Can we get the letter delivered to you by Friday?
Norm, Pete, what do you think?
Today is Tuesday.
I'll defer to you, Norm.
Mary Jane has the issues with regard to the tax collector and so forth. I think if the letter were provided to the Selectmen's office by way of an email, so in other words, a signed letter that you scanned and with your signatures and emailed to the Selectmen's office, I think that would do the trick. And again, we just we need it as absolutely as quickly as possible if you want to be part of this.
I'd just like to add that Friday is workable on my end. That would be fine.
Okay. And one other thing to understand is that if you are part of the project, you may decide not to actually connect to water until like 8 or 10 years from now. But just to be clear, it means that you would start paying the twice yearly assessments, even though you might not immediately connect to water.
Correct, I understand that.
Okay.
I have a question.
Certainly. I want to finish this piece of business.
Yeah.
So as Norbert indicated, and a scanned or PDF copy of your letter to signed by both of you stating your intention to connect that you want to be included in the benefit assessment. And I don't know, Norm, if you have specific language that should be in that document. But if you can get that to us by Friday to the Selectmen's office, I think we're prepared to do this contingent resolution and, when this meeting concludes, and allow for that possibility.
May I ask what the property address is?
14 Lower Road.
Lower Road.
Thank you.
So if our letter says we intend to join the project in the future, is that simple sentence sufficient enough?
Norm or Pete, could you get us some very specific language that we'll share with them?
I will do that. I will do that after this call.
Okay.
Our email address is fabianrj@aol.com. fabianrj@aol.com.
Sandy wanted to speak.
Hello, Sandy Ruoff. I'm a member of the Board of Selectmen, so I just had a question for the Fabians. When you got your letter on August, or the letter dated August 17th, and I guess you received it on the 19th, was this the first time that you were made aware of the ability to be part of this project?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I was just a little surprised because it's been in the works for 20 years, but okay, I just had that point of information.
Well, without any, it's been in their works for 20 years, but without all the specifics that are now available.
If I may speak, I believe that all the property owners along Lower Road were reached out to during the project and prior to the project for inclusion for purposes of putting in a tap and all the rest. And several other property owners did choose to join in and do already have taps and connections. So I don't know how this one property would have been missed unless you said you're a part-time resident, but I do believe there was several opportunities for outreach for inclusion in the project.
The cost was never accurate.
Well, I think that's clear that even some of the people who already have water, the cost was never known until the project was completely finished. But the idea to join the water project has been ongoing for many years, and many people joined on without knowing the exact cost for the benefit of having public water.
I think despite the timelines, et cetera, and what information has been shared, I think we've arrived at a reasonable compromise to accommodate your request. So we'll get you the language via email, hopefully later today, and would expect it to be returned before close of business on Friday, so that we can proceed with the requirements we have on our end.
When you send us that stuff, make sure you put in where we will email you back our reply.
Absolutely. All right, Karen, other questions out there?
Karen Clark.
Hi, Karen Clark from 32 Marshall Avenue, and I have a quick question. So how many properties are there along the main with the potential to hook up in the future? Those that haven't hooked up yet?
Karen, Janice?
I believe we sent out six, seven, let's see, 7 last chance letters to property owners who were considered to be not part of the original project, that were mostly along the Lower Road section. That was somewhat part of Indian Cove, as well as 2 property owners that have frontage along the main on High Ridge Road, yet have very severe challenges for connection because of the change in grade and presence of rock. So,
Okay, thank you very much.
Jessica Zito.
Hi, yes, I just wanted to ask a quick question as we round out the meeting on the point of the resolution that was mentioned that I very much understand and respect you're looking to set today or very soon. there appear to be, from my notes here, at least 3 open points. Future hookups to the main and those funds being sent to the general fund. Several neighbors have raised that. Secondly, the personal property taxes of CWC and how those are going to contribute, whether that be to the town general fund or elsewhere. And third, this final point on the Lower Road hookup, provided that you're agreeing to this extension of time for 14 Lower Road, might there be an opportunity for the remaining 6 or 7 to extend that extension of time to others? It seems only fair to do so in that one last final chance effort. So just a few points. I don't understand the administrative and legal roundouts of this resolution, but it seems to me that it would be fair to address those questions once and for all to those who've raised it and for the wider community here that's benefiting prior to filing any resolution.
Jessica, thank you for those points. A couple of things comes to mind. The resolution of the amount of taxes paid by Connecticut Water Company does not impact this resolution. Obviously, if other folks wanted to sign up for it, that could potentially impact the resolution, but I think we've given ample opportunity for those other folks to connect. And again, the only thing that they are missing, obviously it affects your payments and your schedule. So and from your first question, we have some deadlines that we have to meet in order to make this process work so that we can get tax bills out for October 1. Norb or anyone else want to, Norb? Okay. We have another hand raised, Karen? You're muted, Karen.
Sorry about that. Karen Worth on 22 Spring Street. My question is, I guess as long as other people are starting to come in, I'm wondering why their assessment is still the 19,561 in 10 years when the rest of us are paying a 2% interest. And so that's my first question. And my second question is, with regards to obviously that additional money coming in right now, obviously that's your money, but I feel like we all, as do all my other neighbors, that money feels to me that it at least should be shared amongst us, even if part of it is with the town. But right now you're telling us all of that goes to the town. I mean, we've all sort of funded this project. And if new neighbors want to come in, my question is, why are they not paying the 2% interest additionally that we are? Their fee seems to stay flat and ours doesn't. And also, why are we not sharing in sort of this benefit to lower our assessment or the cost? I mean, it just seems that it would only be fair. And I understand there's some statute, but I guess I'd like to understand how we actually go about challenging that statute.
Norm or Pete, you want to take that, please?
I'll do my best. First of all, as Janice mentioned, there's only a small handful of other properties that could possibly join in at some time after the fact. Janice, I think it would be 5 or 6 others. The likelihood of their doing so at this point is quite remote. Obviously one of the issues is 18 years down the road, if one of those properties decides to join in, and I think this is the reason the statute is worded the way it is how do you lower the project costs, or how do you distribute the overage to people who may have been property owners 18 years ago, but aren't now? So you have all that logistical, who gets the benefit of that. But in terms of if one of those 5 or 6 did decide to join in many years later, again, they don't have the opportunity to finance this over 20 years at 2% interest. They would have to pay the equivalent of the entire assessment up front. Now, the only difference with the discussion that we're having today is whether somebody hooked up 10 years from now, one of those 5 or 6 property owners, of whether their connection charge would be $19,561 or whether their connection charge would be $19,433. So I hope I've answered all your questions.
Okay, what about the challenging of the statute? In terms of, is that, you know, in terms of this goes through, we have no possibility of challenging that at this point?
Well, don't forget, that's a state statute.
Right.
And
So I guess
state-
my question is how, I mean, I don't want to just, but I mean, yeah, go ahead. So state statutes can't be changed, or we can't challenge that as these 151 people?
Well, they can be changed by the legislature, but generally speaking, changes by the legislature cannot be done retroactively.
Karen, we see any other questions?
No, I don't see any other hands.
I have a question if you can hear me.
Yes.
Hi, I'm James Finkel, a new resident as of last December at 39 Rock Lane. And we're having a wonderful time here. The community's been just absolutely wonderful and welcoming to us. And you know, from what I've heard about the project, I'm also full of compliments. I do have some observations I want to share. I don't know, on the legislative issue, I can't provide legal advice to the woman who just asked the question, but you certainly can possibly launch a legal challenge against the implementation of this procedure under the statute. You're not trying to reverse the statute. You're just trying to say that, you know, there's been unfair treatment under the statute. But to my mind, it's irrelevant, because if you think about trying to rebate the homeowners, the 151 homeowners, if say all 5 or 6 people came in and paid the additional, let's say 5 came in and paid $100,000, and trying to rebate $100,000 back to 151 homeowners at some future point in time, the accounting for that would just be a nightmare. And I think it would be one argument that the town would have would be just to be administratively impractical. It doesn't strike me as wildly unfair. And particularly the 2% issue. Remember, you know, if somebody comes in 15 years from now, they won't have had the benefit of having the water for 15 years. We who pay in today do, and we're just being given, I think, the benefit of being able to pay over time at a low interest rate. So I'm not sure I'd understand the logic of charging them interest at some future date. Those are just comments to address what so many people have raised. I did want to ask Janice, because I didn't own my property, but I'm presumably my property was on the list because I got the letter. But is it true, Janice, at 39 Rock Lane, the then current owner elected to be part of this?
Yes, according to the list here, 39 Rock Lane has a tap that was provided for the property as part of the project. I don't believe, as of the date of this list, which is a few months old, that the actual property is connected. Do you know if that's the case or not?
No, and that's a question well, a point I'm going to raise maybe for the minutes, which is
right.
The tap that was installed at the place it was installed. There's a legal problem with that location. There's an easement and there's town property between my house and that tap, which I'm not sure I could honestly say I'm going to receive the same benefit of everyone else because of the complexities of actually trying to hook up, because I don't think the tap was placed in the proper area. I don't know how I'm going to address that. Maybe I'll have to try to address that in the 20-day period that was mentioned at the beginning of the call. But I did want to kind of reserve on that issue, because I'm really not sure we're going to get the same benefit because of the location of the tap. I have other questions, which are, and one point about one of the participants asked about liens. I don't know if anyone's considered this. I suppose this is something, an additional tax that one should disclose to one's lender if a lender is collecting escrow for taxes. That might just be a point of financial advice to people on the call. But I was wondering more about future, if there's any future work that's needed to be done on these lines. Is there potential for future assessments under any of the resolutions or anything that's been passed about this project?
So I do show a tap that was left for the property, and you can certainly contact me directly to discuss that. It was my understanding that the water company worked directly with the property owners at the time, as well as with the health department in locating where the taps needed to go and made the most sense for a number of reasons. But we can talk offline about your tap location and see what your concerns are in terms of how to connect to it. In terms of, I forgot what your second question was.
The question was about future assessments. Is there potential risk of future assessments? Who's going to be maintaining these lines and at what cost? Does that come out of the general fund?
No, that's so, as I said earlier, the ownership of the water main is now in the hands of the Connecticut Water Company. And so as a ratepayer, you will be paying, your water bill to them, and any work, that they do on any part of their infrastructure would be just reflected in the rates.
Okay, and this is probably an obvious question. I think it was addressed before. I apologize, but if we don't hook up our house to the tap, we wouldn't be then billed by the water company. Is that correct?
That's correct. So you won't get a water bill until you are connected to the water main and have a meter installed. You still will be assessed for the benefit of having access to the water. And the prior owner did pay the tap fee. So there is a benefit to, it's my understanding that there's a benefit to connecting within, I believe it was a 2-year period, in order to then gain credit on your future bills for that tap fee that was paid. So we can talk about that a little more specifically with regard to your property and your concerns about where the tap is.
Great. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Brian McClone.
Yeah, Karen, Brian McGlone again. And this, I think it goes to Norb. I'm seeking clarification. You made a comment earlier about an appeal period of when something is registered with the town clerk. And in the public hearing notice that we got, it said that a copy of proposed charges were filed August 21st with the town clerk. So I was just trying to understand the clarity of what your comment was about something. It sounded like something is yet to be filed, but when I read this letter, it sounds like it already was filed. I'm just confused by that.
There was a hearing notice or notice for this hearing of what the anticipated charge would be. When the selectmen vote, they will vote then on what, in fact, the final charge will be for you. And then that will be what is filed in the town clerk's office.
Okay. So that was just the notice. And I have to make a second comment because, we are all talking about the assessments and the benefits that each of us as homeowners did obtain. But I guess I just want to go on record making a comment. The town also got some benefit out of this with the paving, the full paving of Mulberry Point Road, a portion of Tuttle's Point, a portion of Daniels Avenue. There's, I'm going to call it future repair or avoidance with these newly paved roads. You probably wouldn't expect any kind of maintenance or service for maybe, I don't know, 8 or 10 years. So, there's a major, I don't know what the cost avoidance was, but I guess I just felt like putting that out there for consideration by the Board of Selectmen. Maybe there's some value that could have been tacked on, or if you will, a contribution from the town recognizing these new roads.
Thank you, Brian. We did have those kind of discussions at earlier points while you were representing the associations. And at this point, I don't think the Board of Selectmen is prepared to move forward with doing some kind of benefit assessment for paving and then trying to change the numbers here. Respectfully, I don't think, I don't want to speak for the rest of the board members, but nor do I know whether or not it's even legal to do so. And at this point, we'd need to get a legal opinion on something along those lines. So it's certainly not something we'd be able to act on today in order to meet the deadlines that we currently have. Karen, anybody else?
Paris Kina.
Yeah, I guess I'm just getting something off my chest more than anything else, but it's my understanding that Indian Cove is part of what drove the costs up on this by requiring engineering studies to be repeated. And it also delayed the project, which additionally drove the costs up. So I just wanted to say that. And if I'm wrong, please tell me and everyone else.
I don't know that you're wrong or not. I do know that we were met with some resistance from that association at one point. I think we were actually forced to look at some alternatives because of the potential that we wouldn't get an easement. But we wound up realizing that we did not need an easement from that association, and negotiated a separate easement over personal property on, and I think it's on Daniels Avenue. So I think it's fair to say that there were delays. There were probably legal costs. There were probably additional engineering costs related to some of the inquiries that and concerns that were raised by the Indian Cove Association. Norb or Janice or anybody want to comment on that?
I think you hit it on.
Yeah, I think you're correct, Matt, and I think Norb was going to also say that. There's one other point I think that's important to make in terms of the benefits to the neighborhood as well, is that we haven't really pointed out, is we do have the addition of a number of fire hydrants in the neighborhood now that will be providing fire protection services for the neighborhood. Hopefully you should update your insurance company to let them know that that's available to you now, because you may see a reduction in your insurance costs because of that. And the town will be paying for those hydrants to remain in place. We do pay for every hydrant in town, and this is adding to our list of hydrants to pay the water company for in the future. But I did want to make that point as to the added benefit to the neighborhood, as well as the potential for individual folks to get a benefit on your homeowner's insurance.
Thank you, Janice. Good point.
Joan Rawlings.
Hello, this is Nick Rawlings, masquerading on Joan's ID here. I'm at 101 Lower Road, and I had a couple questions related to new taps possible by some of the folks on Lower Road who chose not to be initial participants. Will the expense of putting in the tap be borne by the new signer-uppers, or will the Connecticut Water Company pay for that? And who will pay for the repair of the road?
Janice?
Yeah, so as you know, as part of the project, people were afforded the opportunity to take advantage of the tap being installed for their property. Anyone beyond this point is going to have to pay for their own tap to be installed, and they will be held responsible for repairing the road as well as their personal connection from the tap to the house.
Okay, that wasn't clear to me. I appreciate that. Just a comment, we were reluctant at first, but now we're thrilled. We think that this new arrangement, the water is an excellent benefit to us and to our neighbors. So thank you very much for putting it through.
Thank you, Nick. Karen? Anyone
Jay
else?
Sandella.
Hello, can you hear me? I have a question.
Yes, we can.
Is this my time to ask my question?
Karen, who did you call on?
Jay Sandella, and if you could please state your full name and address.
Jay Sandella, you're muted.
Yes, I accidentally raised my hand. I think I've gotten all the information I need with this very productive meeting. Thank you.
Jay Sandella, you've come off mute, I see.
Yep, so I'm Janet Sandella, 62
Oh.
Totals Point Road. Hi, dear. I'm not sure if I heard if there is going to be a lien put on the property. And if so, will that be the town of Guilford or the Clean Water Fund or the Connecticut Water Company?
Miller?
Yeah, I can answer that. It is an assessment notice that is put on the land record. And it is done by the town of Guilford and is to notify the rest of the world and a potential buyer of your property of the fact that there is a water assessment there. So the primary purpose is for title searchers. So someday if you were to sell your property and you were still paying this off, a potential buyer would learn that in fact there's an outstanding assessment that is still being paid. So it's really for the benefit of a potential buyer to know that it's there.
Okay, and the second question is more for the business that I'm in. So I'm in the mortgage business, and many times when we search the title, we see that there are liens and they need to be subordinated to the first mortgage holder. So will the lender be going to the town to get that subordination?
So the town does not subordinate those in the same way that the town does not subordinate taxes. It has been my experience that it varies from lender to lender. Branford, where there have been that most of Branford is sewered, and when it got sewered, there were sewer assessments. My experience was that routinely in Branford, lenders understood that it was something like taxes, and it had no problem with the fact that it was there. Sometimes in other towns where lenders are not familiar with sewer assessments or water assessments, they sometimes insist on getting a subordination, which the town will not give. And usually it's a matter of the lawyer representing the lender having a conversation with the lender or with the title insurance company to get through, whatever the lack of familiarity that the lender has.
So just one point of clarification, because it's my understanding taxes or a sewer assessment is not a lien placed on the property like a mortgage is, but this will be, correct?
Taxes are what they call an inchoate lien. This is not an inchoate lien. It is a notice that is put on the land records to let people know that there is an assessment that needs to be paid.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Karen, any others?
I don't see anyone else with a hand raised, no.
Well, I have a question. I don't know how to raise my hand. I'm on a telephone as compared to Zoom. This is Mary Alice Hoagland, 11 Decatur Avenue. Is the amount that it will be paid on a yearly basis, assuming that you don't pay this all up front, is that deductible in the same way that property tax is on a federal income tax statement or no?
My answer is consult with your tax advisor on that.
Oh, all right. And my other question is, what
No.
if someone decides, hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
What if somebody decides, if there was the option to pay, say, a different amount and then have in advance, like say you don't want to pay the whole amount, what if you want to pay half? Can you do that and then have an assessment based over 20 years? Or is it only two choices, pay it all or go with the other route?
Mary Jane, can you answer that one?
I'm sure we could make arrangements for that type of payment, no problem.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I might qualify that by saying that, like with your lender, if you decided to make some advance payments on your mortgage, it usually does not result in lower monthly payments, or in our instance, lower twice a year payments. It would just mean that instead of getting paid in 20 years, maybe you got it paid in 11 or 12 years.
Okay, all right, well, that's of interest to me.
Yeah,
I also want to say
that's correct.
True Blue did a great job on this project. They really made an impossible situation almost bearable. So thank you. Thank you. Okay, that's all.
Scott Singer.
Hi, it's Colleen Singer, 706 Mulberry Point Road. I just wanted to make a comment to those who are asking about the assessment when a property is sold and say that I have purchased a property in the past where there was an assessment on the property that the then current homeowner had not paid. During the negotiation, what we decided to do was that current homeowner paid half and we paid half. And that was all done via the purchase and sale agreement and the closing document. So it's a very easy process. It's just a negotiation between the current homeowner and then us as the new potential homeowners.
Thank you for that clarification.
I don't see anyone else with a hand raised.
Okay.
Brian just raised his hand.
A quick question, please. Brian McGlone again at 622 Mulberry. With this document that goes onto our land record, let's just say in 5 years, I come in and pay it off. What triggers the town land records, or do I have to get an attorney involved to change my deed and eliminate that reference on my deed or show that it's paid off, or is that something that the town ultimately handles? What's the mechanics for that?
I can answer that. The same way when you pay off a mortgage, your lender will issue a mortgage release to go on the land records. The town will do the same thing. They'll issue a release that will get recorded on the land records.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Matt, I don't see any other hands at the moment.
Okay. Well, if there are no further comments, and I still don't see any, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Charles? Sandy or Sue, you still there?
I'm still here. I have my video open, but I don't seem to be on it, but I'm here.
Okay.
I'm
would
here
you-
too.
Would either of you second the motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Attention,
please. We hope you are enjoying your visit.
Let me try your minds. Selectman Federici, I see you're still here.
Yes.
Selectman Hammond. Selectwoman Renner.
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Thank you. That concludes the public hearing portion. And now I'd like to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Selectmen for August 31st to 2021. And let's move to that agenda. Give me a brief second here. Okay. The first item is to discuss and take possible action on the proposed benefit assessments for properties benefited by the construction of water mains as part of the Mulberry Point water project. We have a resolution that has been prepared by Norb Church, and I think Pete's had an opportunity to review it as well. Not that we're looking over Norb's shoulder, but nonetheless, let me at least read the first two paragraphs because I think it's important that we make the adjustments that were just discussed. Be it resolved that the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Guilford pursuant to a public hearing held on August 31, 2021, hereby adopts benefit assessments for properties benefited by the installation and extension of water mains in the Town of Guilford as follows. That's $19,561.97. And each additional unit, each residential unit per the attached list. And that the above assessments shall be due on October 1st, 2021. With the following addition, that said assessment shall be subject to adjustment should any additional property owner or owners choose to participate by so notifying the town in writing by 4:30 p.m. Friday, September 3rd, 2021. That's language that was submitted by Peter. And I'm going to read the second paragraph. Be it further resolved, the Board of Selectmen hereby adopts an installment payment plan for the payment of the above assessments in equal installments. The first installment being in the amount of $595.77 and subsequent payments of $595.77 being due each April 1 and October 1 and shall continue on a 2-payment per year scheduled thereafter until the year 2041. And said installment plan shall be subject to adjustment should any additional property owner or owners choose to participate by so notifying the town in writing by 4:30 p.m. Friday, September 3rd, 2021. And then I would beg the board's indulgence on reading the balance of the resolution unless someone wants to read it fully through. Fine with fine. Okay. Any other comments? Everybody okay with waiving the balance of the reading?
Yes, yes.
All right, so, is there a motion?
I'll move.
Charles moves it, is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right, further discussion? Norm and Pete, you guys are pretty comfortable with that language that was provided by Pete?
I did want to confirm that with Norb. I just sent that to Matt while you folks were discussing. So Norb, you're okay with that?
Hey, thanks, Peter.
All right, there's somebody on the line who's muted, who's not muted but should be. Okay, thank you. All right, any further comments or concerns or discussions?
No, the only point I'd like to make though, and we were thanking so many people, and Dennis was such a driving force, but I'd also like to note that it was the previous administration that started this moving under Joe Mazza's leadership. And I know that you have stepped in and done a great job too, but I did want to point out, I remember the beginning to that administration, especially when the numbers came in so disappointing in the first bid process. So that's the comment I'd like.
Charles, I'd echo those same sentiments. I was sitting on the Board of Finance chair at the time and was very pleased to work with Joe on this side by side because he was clearly a big advocate for this, and I know the balance of the administration was. So thank you for that point. Anyone else? Let me try your minds. Selectman Federici.
Aye.
Selectman Haverda.
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner.
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff.
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. Thank you. That motion carries. The Norb, thank you very much for all your work on it and your patience today. Appreciate it. Janice, good work as well. I know you've got an item coming up here, so can't take your leave quite yet, but Norb, you might be able to get back to your vacation now. Thank you for carving out the time. Okay, next item, which is actually should be item 2, discuss and take possible action to extend the on-call concrete sidewalk contract.
Matt, I'm gonna have to check out on this.
You're fine, Lou.
All right, good job today, everybody. Thanks.
Hey, Karen, is it possible to figure out who that is and mute them?
I think it's Lou. When he gets off, it'll be fine.
Oh, it's Lou. All right. Discuss and take possible action to extend the on-call concrete sidewalk contract with William M. Layton Construction for 1 additional year per the terms of the contract, and to approve $50,000 for work which includes the relocation of the crosswalk at Whitfield and Water Streets and trip hazards on various downtown sidewalks. Janice?
Yes, thank you. We've had William Layton Construction as our on-call sidewalk contractor for 2 years now. And we do have the ability to extend it for 3, and that would bring us to June 30th of 2022. So that's my first request to do that. And my second request is to allow for the authorization to expend $50,000 worth of work, which I've identified just under that amount, but there's a few other little ones I wanted to add. So I didn't give you a detailed list, but primarily they're focusing at the crosswalk at Whitfield and Water to complete that relocation, to remove that center crosswalk that goes from Pages over to Page Taft. That's in the middle of the intersection, to a safer location. We've been on hold on that project while the water company finished up all their work in town. And we want to get this completed prior to the state paving Route 146 next construction season. That project's been designed and already reviewed and approved by DOT. It's just a matter of executing it now. And then based on complaints I get, I keep an ongoing list. And as well as the fact that through the Safe Streets Task Force, we recently had an assessment of all our sidewalks done, which highlighted some of our deficiencies in terms of trip hazards. And I focus for that reason on Fair Street and State Street. And there are a couple other locations over by the crosswalk work to be done too that came to my attention. So each year I have been allocated $50,000 in the capital budget to proceed with this type of work.
Great. Thank you, Janice. Let's break this into 2 pieces. Is there a motion to extend the contract with William M. Layton Construction LLC for 3 more? So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Charles or Susan.
The 50,000 is not.
That's not part of this, yeah. This is just extending the contract first. Any further discussion on that? Let me try your minds. Selectman Haverda?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff?
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. And now, is there a motion to approve $50,000 of work, which includes the work to relocate the crosswalk at Whitfield and Water to the south side of the intersection, including the removal of existing crosswalk and pavement repairs, along with various sidewalk repairs to address tripping hazards in the town center, including several on Fair Street and State Street? Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Charles, you had a question? No?
Well, this 50 is not additional. This is.
No, this is-
what she talked.
Yeah, this is your annual allocation on sidewalks, right?
Yeah, so the 50 is the annual allocation. And to break it down for you a little further, it's approximately just under $19,000 for the crosswalk work that needs to be done at the intersection and the removal of the old cross and pavement patching that goes along with that to the DOT spec. And then I've already identified over $23,000 worth of work to be done just on State Street and Fair Street for tripping hazards. And as I stated, there's a couple other locations over by Amarones that I need to address as well. So that's why I'm asking for the full 50,000 approval.
Thank you, Janice. All right, we have a motion. Anything further? Let me try your minds. Selectman Haberda?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectwoman Ruoff?
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Janice, thank you very much, not only for this, but for
Thank
providing the expertise this morning.
No problem.
Okay, item 3, consider and take possible action to authorize Fire Commission Chair Kenneth Wilson to sign an individual contract with Michael Shove, an Assistant Fire Chief, for July 1, 2021 through June 30, 2025. That and item number 5, which is to consider the collective bargaining agreement between the Town of Guilford and Guilford Supervisors Association, will require executive session at the outset prior to us coming back in and possibly taking action to approve it. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Okay.
Matt, can you invite in
Yep.
myself,
Yep.
Chris Hodgson, Pete Barrett, and Ken Wilson to the first item?
Yes, those individuals are so invited.
And Mary Jane too, if she'd like to stay on.
I think she's on vacation. I think she's looking to get back to the pool.
Back to, yeah, I just wanted to note, Matt, that we'll be in touch throughout the week regarding any additional assessments so that we can get that started for Friday.
I agree. And Mary Jane, thank you for all your help this morning with that, in providing the answers to the public. So well done.
All right, talk to you later.
You got it. Is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
And a second, Sue?
Yes, seconded.
Let me try your minds. Selectman Haber?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectman Boyd is also an aye. Karen, we're recording again?
Yes, I'm recording. It said it was.
Yes,
Is that
we
recording? Thank you. Okay, in executive session, we've had discussions. We had some presentations, but there were no motions made, no actions taken. But as a result of the discussions, is there a motion to approve and authorize, approve the contract and authorize Commission Chair Ken Wilson to sign the individual contract with Michael Shaw as Assistant Fire Chief from July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2025?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? No.
No.
I just want to publicly take the opportunity to thank Ken Wilson for the outstanding job he continues to do as chair of the Fire Commission, but more particularly his role in securing this 4-year contract with a very valuable member of our fire department. So
I'd like to just add to that too, that this is a very important contract, for the town and community. So this is good.
I agree, John. Thank you. Any other comments? No? Let me try your minds. Selectman Haberda?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Okay, is there a motion to approve the collective bargaining agreement between the town of Guilford and the Guilford Supervisors Association effective July 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2025? Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
So, yeah,
I'll
thank you,
second.
sir. And second. Any further comments or so forth? I would like one, Sue. Thank you very much for the work you did as the Board of Selectmen representative on this thing. As I think we talked about, this wound up being in a lot different place than when it started. So it took some work to get there. I appreciate the work that you did as well as the work that Mitch did. So thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the supervisors, especially through this past year with the pandemic and all the efforts and the superior job. Because of them, the town was able to get through this.
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, and I think there's consensus on that. All right, anything further? If not, let me try your minds. Selectman Haberda?
Aye.
Selectwoman Renner?
Aye.
Selectman Hoy is also an aye. That motion carries. Thank you very much for what turned out to be a little longer meeting than it was probably planned for. I appreciate all the work you do all the time. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second, non-debatable motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you.